Hello everyone, this is Asif bin Ali, a journalist and an academic. Today, we are here to have a discussion on the second Bay of Bengal conversation. This is organized by the CGS, and this particular session deals with the topic evolving journalism, traditional media versus alternative media. And in order to discuss this particular topic, we have two very prominent guests with us. In my right, we have Mr. Nurul Kabir. Nurul Kabir is the editor of New Age, Bangladesh. Mr. Nurul Kabir, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
And in my left, we have Mr. Leo Wigger. Leo is the editor of Zenith magazine, and Leo is from Germany. So welcome, Leo.
Thank you.
Before we start the discussion, it's very important to define what is a traditional media and what is alternative media. So in order to have the discussion organized, by traditional media, we refer to print and television media like newspaper, like for example, New Age or BTV. On the other hand, alternative media, we are referring to mostly new media such as Facebook, YouTube, these kind of platforms. So keeping that definition on place, the first question I would like to ask to both of my guests, and first I will start with Mr. Kabir, is that what do you think, what is the alternative about alternative media?
Well, for me, the traditional media you are referring to is mainstream media that people understand. Mainstream media has evolved a lot. For example, when it started as a media, just at least in this subcontinent, a lot of examples that it started as a missionary issue, mostly talking about, it was not profit driven, mostly of public interest, personal information, covering events and sort of issues. But eventually it developed into a commercial media. The modern media means today is commercial media. Now, commercial media can be looked at from different points of view. For example, simply commercial media is like investment, and whenever is an investment, a question of investment comes, it calls for profit. So like any other product, the newspaper is a product from any. That investment is once it was a labor-intensive industry, these days is a capital-intensive industry. So the owners of the media organizations mostly focus on their returns of the investment, and they think about what kind of information as a commodity will be providing entertainment or necessity of the readers. So they plan their media organizations to go by that objective. And then political information, economic information, analysis, these have also become commodity. And here comes the question of editorial policies, that what kind of, say, politics, what kind of cultural orientation, or what kind of economic development a newspaper will pursue. So whatever they do, they have to substantiate. To be a good newspaper or a good media outlet, to be television or radio station, they have to think whatever they do, it has to be credible to their readers. I'm talking about the mainstream media. So in that case, journalists have to check and cross-check information. An analyst has to look at different areas of the information coming from and give a concluding opinion. But in case of what you call social media or alternative media, I must say that alternative media rather, as we see, are used mostly for a personal opinion. And there are a lot of comments, a lot of information that needs to be checked, but it's not checked the way the professional media does. So there are, of course, apprehension that the information we get could be misinformation in the social media. A professional media organization cannot simply afford to do that. So as a platform for public opinion, particularly on different issues, social media has a great role, no question about that. But what we call information processing as a modern commodity in the professional media, the mainstream media, traditional media, we need to be much more careful. We just cannot make a comment without basing on facts, pure facts. So alternative media is a very tricky question because alternative to what? Are you talking about alternative to the professional media, those who check and cross-check information and give informed opinion? I don't think so. You didn't mean it. Then I would say that perhaps when mainstream media cannot satisfy the readers in general, when they cannot fulfill their demands on many other issues that a professional media outlet provides them with, then they go for alternative sources like social media. The social media is okay, but one has to remember that it cannot be as objective as a good professional newspaper or television channel will be providing the readers with.
So Mr. Kabir, taking the point from you is that, can we summarize it that the legacy media has the all setup and arrangement to be objective, accurate and fact-check based system, while these measurements were absent in alternative media,
right.
And that's what you are saying as an alternative media platform from your point. Thank you very much. Taking that point, I'd like to ask you to Leo that, what do you think? Is it good to have all those things in the alternative media, or the alternative media as it is designed, it's not possible to have all these, big ethical parameters of the legacy media?
That's a very good question. I think what's important to consider is that, of course, all media were at some point in their history alternative media, alternative to the to the mainstream of their time. So this is per se not something bad or good. It's just like a matter of fact. Mm-hmm. Of course, we are living in a media environment that is rapidly changing and drastically changing in so many different ways, and this comes, as every change, with a different set of opportunities for media and challenges. What I'm seeing here, of course, at the moment is that the challenges are becoming bigger, and I think we need to have a discussion focused more on the challenges of it at the moment, because I think few people have understood to what extent the media environment that we're living in is eroding, and like even the basic standards of how we consume media are eroding. For example, what is reality? How is a factual truth being checked? How is an information that I transmit as a media correct or not? This is a huge issue, and it's a question that really goes to the fundament of a society, I would say, and this is why we need to take a closer look, I would say.
So Leo, based on the point that you're making, I'd like to draw a question on this aspect of objectivity, because as Mr. Kabir had a long-standing career in journalism, and of course one of the very prominent fighter in this line of upholding the objectivity, do you think that right now the consumers, the main news consumers, they want objectivity?
Well, that's a very interesting question. For that to happen, in fact, all media organizations need to conduct surveys on a regular basis. That's one. But before I come to that point, I would rather try to delve into a different area, that even the alternative media to the mainstream media can be defined from a different points of view too, keeping the social media, as you said, Facebook and others, as at a side. Say, media can also be described as a ideological apparatus of the state. Say, any state has its foundation to run, there are repressive organs. So any government, elected or unelected, uses the state as such, I mean the visible state, the bureaucracy, the police, the other repressive organs to make sure that they can have a rule of law the way they look at. But when in a society as rebellions take place, or when a government becomes unpopular, in that case, just the traditional state apparatus is not enough to control the public opinion. And for that, any government, particularly authoritarian government, needs to media outlets to legitimize their actions and inactions in the society. And media is being used, mostly the mainstream media, to legitimize a government's autocratic or undemocratic actions and inactions. In that case, I mean, just keep aside the social media, even the democratically oriented sections of the media activists, media professionals, they also, within the mainstream media, they need to look for alternative ways or critical media to counter the sections of the mainstream media that intends to legitimize untruth, legitimize undemocracy, undevelopment, and put forward the critical issues that needs to be addressed, or the government made to be subservient to the truths and work for the people. So media can also be used as ideological state apparatus of a government.
You are absolutely right, Mr. Kabir, while you were referring this particular word, state apparatus. And of course, if we do not forget Luis Althusser,
Yeah.
and when he was discussing about how state apparatus, like school, religious institutions,
Yeah.
or like media, how they function. I mean, that is from a political, structural point of view,
Yeah.
it's all established.
Yeah. But media and information is political primarily.
Yeah, of course, of course. But the point I was trying to say here is that, and also now this question is to Mr. Leo, is that, see, what we are seeing in, of course, in the case of Germany, because when the Syrian refugees were coming, and Angela Merkel took this brave stance to go against all the criticisms and organized like misinformations in alternative media, and take a position to take those refugees in home. Now, in these particular cases, alternative media mostly, as Mr. Kabir was saying, reflects what people wants to give their opinion. And that's how it become very closer to the people. Do you think this connection between alternative media and people can be challenged by all these structural networks of legacy media?
I think what you're referring to like sounds like it was, like a bottom-up movement, that people were just, using alternative media to voice their dissent with Merkel's policy of welcoming refugees from Syria and other countries to Germany. But I think the reality was quite different. I think the reality was that this was not a spontaneous bottoms-up movement, but it was actually the result of a planned disinformation campaign, where actually most indications lead to Russia. We have a long history in Europe and also in Germany of mostly Russian sponsored fake information, misinformation, disinformation campaigns that aim to destabilize the democratic societies. And this was at stake there. We can see that for example, there was one very prominent case where an alternative media platform was reporting on the rape of a Russian woman in Germany, and this led to like a massive wave of protests on social media and so on, and people were protesting even in reality against this policy of letting in dangerous Muslim refugees who were attacking Russian German women. But in fact, this had never happened. It was fake news, and this fake news was coming from or was disseminated by Russian state media called Russia Today, RT. So I think what we can see here by this example is that I think in many cases it's illusionary. It's even naive to think that social media are giving people a voice. Yes, that's the case. It can be the case. But unfortunately, the more social media is evolving, the more we are progressing with digital technology, the less naive are authoritarian states using these technologies. And this means that there's an unprecedented amount of orchestrated and organized state-funded campaigns to disseminate fake information.
Yeah, I mean, I think there Mr. Kabir's point connects, because when we say alternative media is actually giving people to express opinion, but in reality what we are seeing is actually it's the big profit and the big corporation and the big state and non-state apparatus are investing to manipulate people's opinion. Now, I would like to take this discussion to next question, and that is to you, Mr. Kabir, because leading one of the very prominent legacy media platform, you have already noticed that the legacy medias are competing with alternative media, and those who were not competing, they are already seeing negative impact on their revenue. However, those who are competing, they are competing not by the legacy media's law and the practice and the norms and the ethics, but by the alternative media's practice, law and ethics. So for example, in a legacy media you may take like 6-7 hours to post a news. In an alternative media platform, the same legacy media, like for example, I don't know whether News does it, but just to give an example, if News has a Facebook page, and to get people's tractions and views, News needs to post that news within like 1 hour or maybe 30 minutes. Do you think that this competition that we see, it's anyway taking us anywhere?
Well, there are 2 points, if I could understand from both of you. In the first place, the alternative media or social media, no denying that it provides the people with an opportunity to express their own views and thus strengthen their positions in the society in terms of running state, economy and others. But every opinion that apparently looks innocent may not be an innocent thing, because which apparently looks an individual's opinion, there are concerted moves by a group of people. For example, in this country, Awami League and BNP, two contending political parties for power, have their social media platforms, and they are using those platforms, abusing each other. So, social media does mean that individuals always are just expressing their own opinions. So there are danger in it too. There are a lot of defamatory content are there, lies are there, false information are there, disinformation is there. So this is not possible for a good newspaper, respectable media organization in the mainstream, even if it supports the establishment, because they have to, even for their own benefits, financial benefits, for their credibility, they have to check and cross-check some information. As long as the business is concerned, of course I agree. As I said, that traditional media, which was a missionary issue several hundred years ago, it has become now capital-intensive industry. So question of profit is there. So be it a social media or is it traditional media, whenever the investment will be there for disseminating information and expressing views, that has become a commodity. So it has that angle as well. But my concern at the political level is that disinforming people or misinforming people is dangerous, which is compared to the traditional media, compared to the mainstream media, the scope is much larger in the social media. The scope is there, but at the same time I must say, even for the mainstream media and the individual journalists working for the media, has a lot of clues, primary clues to the Facebook or some other thing that he or she can take the clue and check it for a serious news item or a news analysis for that matter. That helps. So they're a complementary role to each other. At the same time, I still believe that what you call, well, many other people call alternative media, it has not been able to become an alternative media to the professional media today.
I agree with you that, of course, it has not become an alternative to the professional media, but it has become significantly powerful.
Yeah.
Then the
I mean, there are many bad things and can influence the society, as many good things can influence the society.
Yeah, of course.
So there are, of course, those media. I'm not ignoring them or disrespecting them. So people, it has provided an opportunity to give voice to the people. No question about that. But we have to take from that point of view that this is a voice, this is an opinion, may not be 100% objective.
Of course, I mean, all opinion are subjective. So there is no doubt about it. Now, the next part of our discussion, I would like to talk about journalism, because our topic has this word, journalism, evolving journalism. And you, all three of us, one is already ongoing, me having one leg in journalism, one leg in academia, and you is already a full-time journalist.
No, I have different legs as well.
And also different hats to wear. So we have seen journalism, and it's evolving, definitely. And there is a new competitor in the market, which is AI, artificial intelligence. And there is no doubt that, because Mr. Kabir works in an English newspaper, he knows how good English an AI can produce than a reporter who is working on the field. So given that complexities of situation, what do you think how AI is going to, in association with the alternative media, going to impact on journalism?
I think AI, generative AI, is fundamentally transforming media, and we're just, seeing the first steps of that, because I think, this year, 2023 was, one of the, breakthrough years of, generative AI. Like many things that we're seeing now were not there last year, which is incredible. I was just thinking about a program for young digital entrepreneurs from the MENA region that I'm co-curating and organizing in Germany. And last year, we had 0 applications that were produced with AI, and this year it was probably 60 or 70% just from reading it out, and many of them were just straight, copies, like people were asking the questions from the application process in ChatGPT and just copied it. And of course this was easy to disseminate, but it's there. It's really changing the professional environment fundamentally, and also media, and we're just at the start of this. And I think the biggest threat, I'm trying to point out the dangers and threats here, but I think the biggest threat is that AI is already, after 1 year of being so publicly visible, generative AI, able to produce images and videos even videos in other languages than the one that the original sentence was produced, that are fake, but no one could ever say that they are fake just from the quality of how they are produced. This is already where we are now, and this is just a start. So just imagine where this is going. I think this is changing everything, and it's a massive threat to fact-checking and news that is kind of bound to kind of tackling issues based on facts.
So I mean, if I put it in a one word, that AI is in its adolescent age.
Yes.
And has already overrun the experts.
Yes.
To some extent. Okay. That's a very worrying situation, because that's also to some extent my conclusion when it comes to the AI and the future of journalism. But what's your take on it, Mr.
Well, I generally agree with both of you. Just I want to add one thing, that AI is a complex process, it's a new thing. It's too early to give a conclusion at eventually what stage it will reach. But another concern that's been thought by across the world, with the thinking sections of the people, that is possible impact on the human employment and the level of creativity AI would produce, whether it would be better than the human thinking and it's not. So it's a complex thing that we need to study and wait more.
So, I mean, from your administrative point of view as an editor of this newspaper, do you think at some point you had to adjust with the power and pace of alternative media and AI in order to survive?
That we don't know. It depends on the size of the economy.
It's a hypothesis.
I'm not sure, but hypothesis, because and that's what I said, that it has to be seen how it gradually develops. It will depend on the cultural understanding of the issue. It will depend on the technological development of the potential journalists. And of course, a cultural issue is seriously involved in that, because how people would eventually react to that. We understand that every technology is being registered by the traditional people every ages, but AI has some different dimensional the dimensions, particularly because of so-called thinking ability.
Yes.
How AI think.
Yeah, of course, you were absolutely right on that point, because in the automation age, there at least you need a human to switch on and off, and then all machines and the production, the food system or production system will go on. But in case of AI, you don't need anyone to switch it on.
Well, but I mean, it's still, the algorithms are produced, like based on human thinking and based on, human
Maths and other things.
Yes, exactly.
No, of course.
So of course, I think, like, to a certain extent, like, it's sometimes, like, misleading to think that, or to kind of think of AI as this massive threat in that sense that, it's automated, it can, like, make people unimportant because of that. Because actually AI is still fully controlled by humans. Whether this will change or not is another question. But the question is, when we think about AI, which humans are profiting from AI? And this is the crucial question, because what we're seeing right now is a massive change from a world where, that is already very unequal to even more inequality. And this is massively exacerbated by digitization. Rich people all over the world are getting richer, influential people all over the world are getting more influential. Many people think, in kind of some sense of an augmented American dream that, they can profit from it. But is that really the case? Who is actually profiting from all of this? This is a question that we should continue to focus on.
Yeah, of course, you are absolutely right on this point, that we need to see where money is coming from and where it's going, in whose account it's going. And of course, there are some, like, only group of corporations are holding the capacity of controlling the media. And if you look into the political economy of media, we will see that it's always the corporates, ads, and these things control the media. But my question is, of course, with the point that he has added to Mr. Kabir to you, is that this AI is a reality. There is nothing to deny. And so I want to draw a case on this typewriter generation. So there was this generations who learned typewriting, and it was one of the very good profession during that time.
We started with typewriting.
Yeah, so
Not him.
I did.
so and then the computer came, and then that entire generation, that was a genocide. I mean, professional genocide in a way. From a journalistic point of view, are you seeing, as a journalist, we are going to face a similar kind of genocidal thing for at least one generation?
Well, a journalist is a human being, and he or she is a citizen of a particular country and belongs to the civilization. So I say this because while we are absolutely aware, all of us, that advancement of technology will take place and new technologies will surpass the old ones, but at the same time that will continue to remain a political ideological issue. If this AI creates more inequality in this world, and even the consensus sections of the journalists, like any other sections of the people, those who dream of a world of equality, they will even protest against this or any technology for that matter, so that humanity has a better future. But at the same time, what I believe practically would happen, there will be struggle. I mean, like class struggle, is sections of the supporting it, the others will be opposing it, and we only can hope that at some point of the advancement of technology and the hunger for corporate hunger for profit making, at some point will compromise, and the poor people will be able to be benefited from AI, and AI would also make the life of the people easier. That we can hope, but I believe there is a complex process will continue to remain between what is today and how and where it eventually reaches.
Thanks, Mr. Kabir. We are almost at the end of our discussion, so I would be going for a closing question, and each of you would get like 30 seconds to answer that. So the question is, do you see a future where journalist is getting AI as a colleague, and the legacy media and the alternative media are merging together to work?
It may happen. Not necessarily that it will happen all together across the world at the same time, but it may happen, of course. And I still cannot imagine how the journalists of those days would be feeling as I mean, AI and a little dehumanizing environment, I believe. I'm not sure, but it may happen, of course.
Mr. Leo.
I think, to be honest, that's already happening in many ways.
In some parts of the world.
You know, like that parts of articles are being written based on generative AI. I think that's not a problem. You know, if it's a good article, if it's still, you know, if it's like the base and then it's being edited by journalists, that's, you know, it can be successful cooperation. I'm not very pessimistic about that. I think the general dynamic that we are seeing in the media before generative AI, already in the earlier digital age, and you know, like now even more so, is of course the change from, you know, like professional media, critical media, to kind of curated media environments. You know, you can see that not just in political journalism, but also in cultural journalism, for example, that people, instead of asking the media, critical media, to come and cover a story like freely, they choose the influencers that they like to do it, who don't ask any critical questions and just make a positive post about something on Instagram. And I think that is very dangerous in the end. And I hope that the future and the future of AI has a role for critical journalism as well.
Thank you, Leo.
I mean, eventually those who finds journalism as a tool for the greater good of the people, they will always welcome anything new or old to remain critical and disseminate critical views. That's the most important thing.
So with this point, let's summarize today's discussion. We had this topic that evolving journalism, traditional media versus alternative media. And if I'm not wrong, we got some very important points. The one is the reality has changed. The AI is no more a thing of future, it's now in present. It's in our office room. And the alternative media is, to some extent, the media which has become so powerful that we cannot anymore ignore it just by saying that, okay, it is not following the standards and ethical guidelines of journalism. Because you see, people, when they are expressing their opinions in those medias, they are also getting connected and having the conversations. There is no black and white answer of all these problems and the questions. Of course, there are gray lines. But the point is, in these gray lines, in the future, can we or will we be able to see a coexistence place where journalism is evolving in association with technology, and journalists are getting their rights and the privileges by supporting and working within the structure, while the structure is working for pro-journalists and pro-people. With that note, I would like to thank two of our guests, Mr. Kabir and Mr. Leo, for joining this session. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And a special thanks to Center for Government Studies for organizing this session and the Bay of Bengal conversation too. Take care. Stay well.